Moving on to number 6, bid opening, which has been modified as to postpone the bid award perhaps, get some information of the project and reasoning from Kevin Bradford that has been living this for a few years. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, unfortunately tonight we have a significant change in the staff recommendation for item 6. Based on information we received yesterday afternoon regarding a pending bid protest, staff is now recommending tonight that council postpone award of the 5th Street Bridge replacement project contract to a later date to allow staff sufficient time to evaluate the possible bid protest. So with that, I'll just quickly review the bid results and our analysis of those bid results, and then talk a little bit about the bid protest. So the 5th Street Bridge replacement project was advertised on May 12th, 2017. Plans and specifications were provided to local bidder exchanges and contractor exchanges, with 8 contractors actually purchasing plans and specifications. Of those 8, on July 6th, 5 of them submitted bids. And you can see there that they range from a low of about $57 million from MCM Construction out of North Highlands to, and then the second low from Flatiron West out of Benicia of about $64 million. We had a third one around 78, and then a couple up around 90. So the first thing we note, there's quite a large spread there between the high and low bids. We think that's a direct result of the permitting challenges of this particular project. There's a 4-month window that contractors are able to work within the main river channel. And then there's also a period during the winter season when we need variances approved by the Central Valley Flood Protection Board to allow work to occur within the levees. So I think a lot of those, the uncertainties with possible permitting challenges are resulting in the spread that we're seeing. The low bid is actually a little less than 5% over the engineer's estimate. In this bidding climate, that seems like a minor victory, I think, on our part. All 5 of the contractors are very highly qualified bridge contractors to perform the work. With MCM's low bid, we did note 3 minor bid irregularities. The first was a failure to extend line item prices for several bid items in the bid form. The second was a miscalculation of the total bid amount that resulted in about a $10,000 savings to the city. And I contacted MCM, and they were willing to stand by their bid even with that slightly lower bid amount. And then the third was a failure to provide complete information for listed subcontractors. They specifically did not list contract amounts and items of work that they were going to subcontract for a few of the 7 subcontractors they listed. So staff consulted with legal counsel regarding those bid irregularities, and based on that consultation, I was prepared to recommend waiving those as immaterial, minor irregularities, and awarding the contract to MCM. That's the way the staff report is written. And then yesterday afternoon, we received notice from Flatiron West, who's the second low bidder, that they intend to file a bid protest. And our council has worked with their attorneys to assure that that will be submitted by tomorrow close of business. Initial discussions with Flatiron is that they believe there are additional irregularities in MCM's bid that we have not addressed in the staff report, and that those irregularities result in an advantage to MCM that the other bidders were not afforded, which means that we would not be able to waive those. So our legal counsel is advising that we postpone this award to provide time to evaluate the bid protest and make an informed recommendation on how to proceed. And so next steps. Legal counsel will review the protest once we receive it with staff, and we would like to bring a recommendation to council at a later date. Some possible outcomes are, one, that we would reject the Flatiron bid protest and wind up waiving the immaterial errors in MCM's bid and award the contract to MCM. The second is accept the bid protest from Flatiron. We would have to deem MCM's bid as non-responsive, and then we'd have a couple of different options. One would be to reject all the bids and rebid it, the entire project, or the second would be to award to Flatiron as the lowest responsible bidder submitting a responsive bid. So unfortunately, some bad news, a little hiccup in the process, but with that, I'm open to any questions.
Any questions, comments from council members? Councilman Buckland.
Through the mayor. Kevin, what would give me an idea what the timeline looks like on this?
Yeah, so if we go with if we receive the bid protest and find that it's meritless, staff would definitely be interested in scheduling a special council meeting, not waiting until the regularly scheduled next meeting, which would be August 15th. So we would look at probably a delay of a couple of weeks in that scenario. If the bid protest has some merit to it, and we accept it, that could take a little longer to work out the details of how to proceed with either rebidding the project or awarding to Flatiron. At most, probably another month and a half.
If there was a rebid, would MCM be precluded from bidding on a future bid?
No.
That's all the questions I have right now.
Any other questions or comments?
My only comment is I believe we ought to set at least at the closest available date a tentative special meeting to be able to award a bid.
And I wouldn't mind that at all myself. I
It'd
support that.
It'd be just a tentative date that we could come together and
What
do
is the
that.
soonest that we could get this evaluated and come to a resolution to where we could come back as a council and make a decision to award or not?
Are you asking me or the city manager?
City manager, you, what's the process? Because that's a collaborative discussion.
We're
Well,
not,
since he said the attorneys need to review it, I think the city attorney would be the most appropriate party to answer your question.
that's a hard question to answer because I can't anticipate the future as to
Right.
what's going to happen with both sides. And typically, what happens is we've directed and they agreed Flatiron to file their bid protest by close of business day tomorrow.
Correct.
Then we will then notify MCM, give them the protest. They then have an opportunity to file a response. And then typically Flatiron will then file a response. Then at that point, we're sort of along the way, we're giving them deadlines under which they have to come back to us. They have to be reasonable. Usually you give approximately 5 days in between each time.
Okay.
Then it'll take some, once we get all the data, all the responses, then staff and the attorneys will analyze it. I'm just guessing. I was hoping that we would be able to get back. I was not as optimistic as Kevin. I was looking at the next regularly scheduled meeting is
15th.
August 15th. I was hoping to get everything
sounds
done,
like
come
it's-
back at that time. If we get it done earlier, we certainly will bring it back earlier. So
Right.
I don't know if I'm real excited about a tentative special meeting date. I'm not really sure what that means. We only need 24 hours notice. I would prefer that we wait to see what happens and try to schedule as soon as we can once we get all the information in. That's just my recommendation.
The only reason I wanted a tentative date is to put some pressure on the timeline.
You should know him by now.
I figured that.
You have the most motivated employee behind that podium over there to drive this project forward, and I have no doubt that once he gets everything together, he'll be down in the city manager's office asking for a 24-hour notice for a meeting. So,
One potential scenario we discussed at the staff level was possibly scheduling it prior to the citywide night out, August 1st.
Of an afternoon.
If we could, I presume everybody would be available for that particular event.
That'll be August 1st, early, and then we go out and visit the citizens.
But again, I'm probably overly optimistic.
Yeah, well, so I guess, do we set a time or a date or anything? I think we just be ready for that 24-hour notice for that day.
Exactly.
Be ready for it. So, kind of announcement to the council to watch. And other than that, it'll be the 15th, most likely. I don't like it either, but we want to get this going. Thank you very much for that presentation. A little different than what we wanted today.